From Tayami Media, you're listening to Be Bold and Everywhere.
Welcome back, everybody, to Be Bold and Everywhere. I'm your host, Mike Heffron. This podcast, we talk about marketing, we talk about business, we talk about being creative and achieving goals creatively. That's what we started this podcast to do, really get these ideas out here and start changing the conversation around what it means to be a marketer, what it means to be a creative, and how creatives and entrepreneurs intersect. There's overlaps here. I don't think you can really be one without the other to a high level. It's just the way it is. And we talk a lot about content. I talked a lot about content in the previous ones. I had some cool questions from TikTok when we repost these. And so I wanted to kind of dig a little bit deeper and talk about content mistakes and content misconceptions that I run into on a frequent basis when talking to prospects, current clients, people on TikTok, Instagram, people in person. These things seem to be flying around. I don't know who's saying it. I don't know how the answers aren't out there, but let's lay it all out in this episode. We're going to go through, I think it's like 4 or 5 or 6 different misconceptions that I see, and we'll sort of unpack that and answer that. First of all, content. We know what that is. This is online media and offline media, but mainly when we talk about content, we're talking about digital media. Just to be clear here. Not that it has to be digital. Content can be in print. Content can be over television, although that is all basically digital now. But you understand what I mean, just so that there's no misconception there right off the bat. So people ask, why should I listen to you, Mike? What do you know about content? Well, I've been making content for a long time. Like, oh, well, you don't have that huge following on TikTok or anything. I didn't even start taking TikTok seriously until I started this podcast. We're on episode 5. So it's been maybe, a month and a half, 2 months. And yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I was late to that boat there. But back when Twitter was popping, back in 2007, 2008, I grew to over 10,000 followers on there. When Instagram started popping off, I grew multiple personal pages to well over 2,000 followers. I've grown numerous band pages, business pages to 2,000, 5,000 and above followers just on that. And I learned a lot. Some of these practices that I'm going to talk about even kind of go into how I figured out that these were mistakes, even though in the short term they might not feel like mistakes, and why it's confusing to try to tell people that, yeah, the way that I grew isn't the way I recommend you growing. That's just what it is. And I'm applying what I consider to be a very healthy strategy to TikTok and podcast growth right now, which is why, you're not seeing the flashy vanity metrics, okay? Plus, we're talking about business and marketing and stuff, not exactly the hottest topic on planet Earth. Just saying there, very niche market. So let's go into some of these misconceptions here. I think the biggest one is really pushback from content, period. So this is someone that will say, hey, that's cool that you make online content. We tried making content and it didn't work. I posted on TikTok every day. I posted on Instagram 3 times a week and it just didn't work. No one cared, so I just stopped doing it. So 1, you didn't follow through with consistency, which I think is really the basis of success in anything, not just content. I mean, anything in life. But 2, your content might be misaligned with your actual goals. I see this is like maybe the most common mistake with content is creating content for content's sake and having no goal behind it other than to just have something, which something is better than nothing. Well, we can say that. It's better to have something than nothing, especially when it comes to social media presence. But not aligning your goals with your content is going to be your first trap. You're going to fall into this trap and nothing's going to seem like it's working because it's not designed to work. So you need to design it to work, And your goals are going to differ depending on, who you are, what you're building, what you're trying to accomplish, right? But any goals can really be, you can break them down into like the SMART goal thing, where it's like specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. These are sort of things that you check off when you're building your goals, So if we unpack that and it's like, well, what are your specific goals? Are you looking for more leads? You're looking for more website traffic? Are you looking for more attendance at a live event? Are you looking for more engagement? Just more metrics on social, more followers, more commenters? Are you looking at people to sign up for something or become subscribers to something? What is your specific goal? Now we can use the content to do it. Now, how would we measure that? This is really the ultimate problem right now, especially when it comes to dark social and when you're utilizing multiple channels. So we'll go into the reason I recommend starting with one channel, because in order to measure any output from these activities, you have to keep it in a very closed channel. Otherwise, it's going to get really hard to figure out where these things are coming from, which may or may not be important to you. You know, depending on your mindset, maybe you don't need to measure something as long as it's working. But if you're someone that needs to measure it, or you're someone who needs to defend your spend, your budget to someone else, you need to have measurements, or else they're not going to believe you, you know? So how do you measure that, you know, depending on the goal? You know, if it's website traffic, then it's, you know, click through. And there's plenty of services where you can find that direct attribution. GA4 now has even the specific piece of content that someone clicked through to lead you to that. That's all pretty cool. Achievable goals. You know, if your goal is to like go viral, that's not really achievable because it's kind of spontaneous. It's almost unpredictable. You know, if you're achievable is hard to say if you're not a deep practitioner. If you truly understand the platform that you're attacking, you'll understand what's achievable in a specific amount of time. You know, if you want to set a long-term achievable goal, hey, be my guest. But if we're testing something, if we're going to say, okay, we're going to give this a shot, we have to set a time limit and set this achievable goal, see how far we get to it, then we'll review it. And is the goal relevant to the content? You know, you have to make the content relevant to the goal or else it's not going to achieve the goal. And you should set a time limit on this experiment, you know, because it's going to breed consistency. If you're posting once a month, you're probably not going to achieve your goal. Just saying. But if you say, okay, we're going to post every single day for 2 months, trying to achieve this specific outcome, let's see what happens. That's something that's relevant. Just saying. And let's give an example of some of these goals here, you know, because it's like, I'm doing my content, but I'm not making any sales. But what are you using your content for? You know, because sometimes you're just chasing trends. You're trying to look flashy, trying to gain followers. You're trying to make business. You're trying to get leads. You're trying to do all of these things at once. The content is not designed to do any of it. Now, if you want to run like a low intent lead gen content strategy, it's pretty easy. You make content, you make it really flash and trash, you make some grandiose claims, you make big promises, you have a call to action, drive them to your website where you have your free download opt-in, you get them in your email cadence, right? You pitch them the offer, then you give them the discount with that fucking countdown timer for urgency. That was countdown in quotes for those just listening. And you'll probably close 1 out of 1,000 people that you pull into that funnel. And, you know, not for nothing, there are pros and cons of this. So, you know, on the pro side, this is proven to work. People have made a lot of money doing this exact funnel. And it's play by numbers. I mean, it's so proven and it's been so analyzed and recreated. You can automate it. It's also very easy to automate this entire process, especially now with just the amount of auto posting and everything that you can do with content now. Very low creativity required for this. Essentially, you're just making big claims and trying to get people, you know, to come in and do what you want them to do. And it aligns really well with paid traffic. So you can really dump a lot of ad spend in this to make it work. But that's also one of the cons is you have to. Because this kind of content is not organic, it's not entertaining, it's not real. So it's not going to play in an algorithm that's just left by itself. So you have to dump money behind it. So it's very expensive to scale this, especially if you're getting 1 out of 1,000 to convert, then you need 10,000 to make 10 sales. So how much money, what's your CAC? I mean, that's all, that's something you need to start analyzing more than the creative. It's also it's just scummy, it's just really opportunistic. It's out of style. Those days of these like fake live webinars and all that. I mean, it's hacky. This is not a good look. I mean, you're still going to probably sucker some folks into it. And maybe your product is not a scam. I'm not saying that every guy that does that is a scam. I'm not saying everything you buy through that is a scam. I'm saying the sales process itself feels scammy. And that's a turnoff. Okay. So if you have a product that you believe in that you know is not a scam and has real results, perhaps positioning it in a less scummy way would benefit you, but maybe not. Hey, every brand personality is different. I'm going to leave that up to you. But I'm just saying, if you want to use content and this is a specific goal you have is just low intent lead gen, that's how you do it. Step by step. Just make flash and trash, big claims, big promises, send them to the website, free download, off to the races, get your conversions. Now some people's goals are simply the vanity metrics, right? Like if your goal is to be an influencer and get paid to be an influencer, then vanity metrics and general audience engagement could be your realistic goal. Sorry, getting Slack notifications here. Forgot to mute that. So how do you build just a vanity metrics growth? And then what are the pros and cons here? When you're building vanity metrics, you're relying a lot on algorithm hacks to boost these kinds of numbers, which then sends signals that brings in more audience. Your content is really designed around trend chasing, around really building what the audience of the moment and what the algorithm of the moment wants. And this is a skill in itself. Now you can also get a little scummy with that. You can get growth bots that will kind of go in there and mine you some numbers, or you just buy them. Just buy the followers from some weird website and they'll put them all on there. They're not real and they won't engage with you, but the number will go up. It's one of the dumbest things because anyone with half a brain can see right through it. If an account has 104,000 followers and then you go to their engagement level and it's like they max out at 100 likes, 0 comments. Come on, man. There's nothing here. And any brand buyer, anyone that's looking for real influencer talent to build into a marketing campaign, you're not even on the table. It doesn't matter how many followers you have if there's 0 engagement. And of course, even if they are interested, they're going to ask to see your insights. And then any fuggery that you do is going to be right out in the open and you're done. So I recommend staying away from any kind of roundabout ways like that. There's no shortcut here, is what I'm trying to say. And big numbers don't mean a lot if they're not coming back, right? So even big engagement, even it's like, oh, well, they got this many likes. It's like, yeah, but have you tried to activate them? And when you activate them, do they activate? Or I guess whether when you call them to activate, do they activate? So if that's one thing. If you're an influencer, you want to grow the vanity, but you want to do it right because that's going to be hopefully your job. You can get paid a lot of money to do it. And it's not easy, but you can do it. I mean, you get a lot of brand authority with that. You command a community. It's really great. But when you're trying to build that really fast, you can end up sending just a lot of bad signals to the algorithm. Your content can seem very surface level and very bubblegum, right? So you might be hot today, gone tomorrow, just because you didn't have any staying power. Your content was just day to day to day, riding whatever trend was relevant. You don't push a lot of high conversion rates because your audience is mostly passive, 90% passive. If you're a brand trying to do this, if you're not an influencer, if you're a brand trying to do this, then you're going to create the most confusing customer experience and brand personality that you could possibly do, which is just going to misalign you with the target audience, and then your content's not going to work. That was in quotes again. I mean, it's not going to work, but that's going to be your complaint, even though you did it totally wrong. What's that thing? What's that that oven? Set it and forget it guy. What is it? Ronco Kitchen? Remember this infomercial from back in the day? Set it and forget it. What is that from? I used to see it as a kid. Something about a rotisserie? Ronco, the company that came up with the Chop-O-Matic head food processor. The Showtime rotisserie oven. That's the one. in the golden era of infomercials, great marketing. I watched a lot of that as a kid. I watched a lot of commercials. I mean, that's what really interested me in marketing, and I've always loved them. I've always wanted to make commercials, even as a kid. When we were doing class elections, I was much more excited to be the campaign manager than the candidate, because I wanted to really orchestrate the marketing around this person and then trying to get that to work, making a lot of signage and stuff like that. It's always just kind of been my thing, and I love this stuff. So Ronco rotisserie chicken, set it and forget it. This is a common misconception and mistake that a lot of people make with content. Content is not set it and forget it. This is it's not going to work. If you just use one of these auto posting services where it's like, post your content and then it automatically gets sent out to 20 different platforms and blah, blah, blah. I don't say don't use that. Okay, let me unpack this real quick. So if you set it and forget it, your content will die and you will receive no growth unless you get mega lucky. If you keep playing scratch off cards, eventually you win one, right? But that's not the smartest way to do it, especially when it costs you money to create this content. So you have to actually nurture the content. And so what does nurturing content means? Because we talked about that in the step-by-step content strategy, and that's a hiccup that a lot of people had. They didn't fully understand what I meant by content nurturing. So nurturing content is increasing the lifespan by building the social structure around the content that you're posting, which also probably doesn't answer the question. Let's go ahead and break this down. So when you put content into social media, you are engaging with an algorithm. An algorithm is a computer machine learning program that is designed to analyze content and deliver that content to people that they believe, the algorithm, would be interested in. So when you post your content, an AI scans your content. They can see the faces. They can see smiles or frowns. They can see food. They know what kind of food. They know what time of day it is. They're like sunshine, leaves. Is it fall? Is it winter? All of this is analyzed and bucketed, right? So it also reads that. It also takes into account the hashtags that you place along with the content. It then also takes into account the people that follow your account and who interacts with you. Okay, so it's like you have X amount of followers, but this segment interacts with your content, and the rest ignore it. Okay, well, if they're ignoring it, who else do they interact with? Okay, so they interact with them, but they ignore you, so we're not going to interact with that. And then who you interact with. So this is a big reason I tell brands, like, don't use your brand accounts for just general entertainment. Okay, if you're on your branded account, every piece of content that you view, every account that you physically engage in, and all the watch time you spend on that account needs to be in line with the kind of brand personality and target audience that you're going after. Because the algorithm's going to watch that. The algorithm watches everything, just so you know. When you're on social media, there is no real privacy, okay? Just forget about that. They know who you DM, they know what you say in DMs, they know what you save, they know what you like, they know how long you watch something, they know when you look at a comment, they know when you like a comment, then they analyze what that comment is. It's very sophisticated. And this is why these companies are huge, right? They get a lot of data. That's really their job, is gathering data and then redistributing user-generated content to a user base that they encourage to generate more content. It's a self-feeding beast, and they make all their money on the advertising that they target via the data they collect. And you opt into this, okay? Just do it, man. If you have a problem with privacy, then don't put anything on social media that you wouldn't want. It's not that hard. You don't have to not use it. Just don't use it in ways that you feel like would violate your privacy. Use it in a professional way. Use it in a goal-oriented way. Not that hard. So at my agency, we take a client and then we run them through what's called a signal sprint. And this is where we sprint and we send as many signals to the algorithm to optimize their content into the target funnel. And we do this by engaging with the similar target audience players that we're going after via watch time, comments, DMs, saves, general engagement. We engage with the audience that's also engaging with those target players. That way we're pulling them into our funnel and creating a interact signal so that relatable account we will now be a part of. And then dump consistent content dumping. I mean, it's prettier than it sounds, right? You're just creating content with a consistent presentation, knowing that the AI is going to be scanning it, and how it scans your how it scans another account that you're trying to mimic. You want to sort of mimic that, and you want to do that as fast as possible without being spammy. Okay. So you have to act like a person and not a psychopath. Because if you are just spamming your target audience, social media platforms don't like that. They don't like that behavior. They analyze that behavior. They know when you're spamming, and they're going to throttle you, and then you're pretty much dead in the water. But so you go ahead and you run a signal sprint, and now you're going to be placed in the right algorithmic category, because the algorithm wants to know, they want to know who you are, and they want to know who your audience is, because the algorithm is not against you. It's trying to get you to where you want to be because it wants you to be there. Right now, in the land of social media, there is an ongoing struggle between the platforms wanting to force you to monetize in order to gain reach, but also keep people on the platform by providing relevant content. And where you want to live is in the middle. It's a little tricky, but you can do it. You can do it. You got to trust. Trust the process, okay? So play into the AI's hands, give them all that. Once your signals are built and you're actually receiving, you're seeing it if you're looking for it. Like you're going to see crossover audiences. You're going to see the kind of reach you're getting increasing. Then you start pumping out more creative. And now you can really start playing around in your space because you have a space to play. The algorithm knows, okay, because say you create an account, blank account, brand new, and you're a construction company. That's what you do. And you're going to post construction content. And you want to target people interested in construction because you can use content for a number of goals. I mean, maybe you want to hire. Maybe you're looking for new contractors. Maybe you're looking to expand out of residential and get into commercial. You know, you can use social media to accomplish any of these goals. And with those goals in mind, then you send all the right signals because you don't want the algorithm to think that you are a golf company. You know, maybe you guys like golfing. That's great. But if you do too much golf content, you're gonna avoid your target audience unless you're trying to be clever about it. And we're gonna get into that as well. So you can also use a lever bay. This is part of the content nurturing process as well. So people like different types of content. I don't think that's a crazy thought, right? People learn differently. People engage with different stuff. So you really want to create a lever bay, which is the same content distributed in various formats. Not the same content on different platforms. That's a totally different thing. So this is the same content, the same message that's delivered in different ways. So if you have a short form video that has a message, then you want to also have that same lever in a text format in an article somewhere else. So if someone's interested, they can find that. They can bounce off. And if they're watching your content, the algorithm is going to see that and then already begin nudging them toward it because the algorithm knows that they like it, right? So you're playing with the algorithm. Maybe they're into long form video. Maybe they're into podcasts, right? So maybe your short form leads to a podcast. Maybe it's an infographic. Maybe they like that visual play. Same message, right? Don't deviate because then it's not a lever bay. You're pulling the right levers and you're giving the control to your audience, really. I feel like another big mistake is trying to control the audience so much. We talk about influencing behavior. Like some marketers they're very cold and aggressive, and some of them are quite successful. So, give it to them. But it's just not my style to be, overly controlling. The audience, they're not sheep. They're not cattle. They're people. And you're trying to interact with people. And if you're trying to influence someone, you want to peer pressure them in a good way. Right? It's the same if think about it as like dating. Like if you're trying to date somebody, you're not going to be super aggressive. You're not going to attack them. You're not going to force them. You're not going to threaten them with time limits and things like that, that would seem very toxic, right? Not that it doesn't work, but not good, in my opinion. So you really put the control into your audience's hands, but make sure the value's there and make them very aware that the value's there. And then it's on them. So that's content nurturing in a nutshell. I guess I can run through real quick. I'll just read the protocol that I have here for my agency and some of the client fulfillment ops that I've trained. This is real basic, but it'll give you an idea if you guys want to step by step. When I started this podcast, I said I was going to get into some real actionable steps. But so many things are so specific, it's really hard to create just like a general step-by-step framework that's going to work. It's not a framework, it's like a prescription. But here's a prescription. Let me find it here. So this is your content nurturing prescription. You create your content, all right? You got your video, your audio, or whatever piece you got it cut, and it's ready to be posted. Okay, so you got through production. Now it's time to go to nurturing, right? So you got to write the social copy. I would do an AIDA audit, which is basically just analyzing if it's going to be optimal for engagement and for the call to action. And then if it's AIDA audited, you can do a subtle call to action, which I call a wink to action. So instead of sort of demanding that someone click on a link, you sort of create a wink to action like, hey, if you look to your left, there might be a link that you could do, It's more subtle. So now that you have all that built, you're going to do pre-publication engagement seeding. So pre-publication engagement seeding is basically all of those activities that we were talking about in the signal sprint. You're going to do that ahead of publication of that piece of content. You can do that for 30 minutes, an hour, 5 hours. It's really up to you. But that's going to begin sending those signals to your target audience. And then when you do publish, if they're actually in your algorithm, then they're going to see it, which is great. So then you post, boom, publication. Now you're going to do post-publication engagement seeding. So you're going to do the same thing again, but now it's already posted. So you can even do wink to actions back to the piece of content that you just posted. Like if you're commenting on somebody's post and maybe the piece of content that you just posted answers the question that they're posing, then you can give them a brief answer and be like, I just posted a video about this. This might be helpful, or let me know if this is helpful. Check it out. There's just an example. And then you're going to not spam, but you're going to get that message out there. Then as engagement rolls in, you're going to re-engage with those that engage with you. So anyone that comments receives a comment back. Anyone that likes, you want to check out their profiles, maybe like a couple of their things, if it's in algorithm, so you want to find those key touch points, and then you're going to peg them. And notice that all of my analogies here are pretty horrible, but we're going off the cuff today, guys. This episode's getting a little raunchy. That's okay. And then you do a post-creative strategy analysis. So, once you feel like the lifespan of that piece of content is over, if it was something really short form, give it, I would say, a week, really. And then analyze how it performed. How many comments did it get? Who commented? What did they say? How many likes did it get? Who was liking? What's the age range? What's the interest level? Was there any click-through onto an external? How close did it get to our goals? You measure it, you do it, and you do that all the time. And I know what you're thinking is, hey, this sounds so time consuming. And it is. It is very time consuming. That's why people don't do it. They set it and forget it. And then they say, oh, my content doesn't work. I can't grow. You're not doing anything. You're not doing the social part of social media. It's the first word in social media is social. So you got to do that. Okay. Otherwise, why would anyone care about your stuff? And how are you ever going to get any data? You're missing the entire value of social media if you set it and forget it. So just never do that. So I talked a bit ago about the automatic content posting engines and subscriptions. And I think they're great if you use the time you save to engage with content nurturing. So if you say, I just don't have time to make all this content and to nurture, I say, all right, then do the AI generated content. Use these programs, use these auto posters, whatever saves you time within that so that you can do the nurturing, because the nurturing is where the action happens. And so if you only have time to do that, then automate the other side. But you can't automate the nurture side. It can't be automated because it's human to human. And I've seen people try, and you'll end up with just some real mismatched like horror shows of some auto reply commenter. So someone will comment and then you'll see the reply and it's so flat and it's so out of touch with the comment that it's replying to that it's so clearly this canned robot response, really not how you build rapport with your audience. So do not automate content nurturing, but you can automate content posting and even content creating. If I wanted to, I could put this whole podcast video in one of these automation softwares and it would chop up all the little pieces and put it in the aspect ratios and create the subtitles all for me. And then I could do it. I don't do that because I like to be very methodical, but you could do that and it would save a lot of time. So there's content nurturing. I hope that's helpful. Then that takes care of the set it and forget it misconception. And now we get into these misconceptions of the quality over quantity or quantity over quality debates. And you have a lot of different players in the game that have different viewpoints of this. So the first one I would say is the quantity over quality misconception, because people get really jazzed up by these social media gurus that are telling you to post 4 times a day, 10 times a day, 20 times a day on every platform. Don't worry about the quality. Just get it out there. Just get it out there. I think Gary V's one of the guys that's like, don't treat your content like a gallery. Don't make it pretty. Don't make it work at all. Just post it. Which I get what he's trying to push you to create more consistently, which is good. That is the goal. But quantity over quality is very rarely a winning combination, because the quality is too low. So 4 shitty posts a day is not going to drive those goals that we talked about earlier. I mean, depending on the goals, I guess, but it's going to be rushed. You're going to have just a very low quality piece of content that the algorithm is not going to know what to do with because it's so unclear. And the content is also evaluated on quality by the algorithm. So the algorithm can tell if your content is poor, judging by off resolutions and framings and audio qualities and things like that. And it can suppress it if it views it as low quality. If you're a business, it can make for a very confusing experience for the customer, right? Because you're just chasing trends and you're just making up whatever to just put out more stuff. It's going to be redundant and boring, or the brand voice is all over the place and you just don't know what's going on. It's like you got hacked, and that's not the kind of impression you want to make, right? But not for nothing. If you go with quantity over quality, you do get that really fast signal sprinting that we talked about before. It just might not be the right signals. So keep that in mind. You're going to get a high number of touch points, obviously. And your account will seem very lively. Moving on to quality over quantity. This is a trap as well. Because you're saying, if my content is not good enough, if I don't feel like it truly represents me, I don't want to post it. Then you end up posting nothing or almost nothing, which is a problem. Now, when you value quality, though, you are spending the time to make good content, visually pleasing, ADA audited, right? Real quick. So an ADA audit, ADA is attention, interest, desire, action. I'm currently in the process of writing a white paper on a framework that I've built off of it, the AIDA fractal framework. And an AIDA audit is an important part of my agency's content control and quality control processes. So if you break down an AIDA audit real quick on a piece of short form video content, are you looking for, does it have a hook? Is the hook good? What is the hook? Then is it engaging or edutaining? Meaning, is it entertaining or educational? Does it have the inspiration? Because that's going to create the desire for the motivation, which is the action. If you have all four, you pass the AIDA audit. But this can take some time to really, really craft, right? Now, you'll also have the perfect audio. You'll be on top of, you'll be up to date, so to speak, because you spent the time to do it. But like I said, it's very slow. And if you're going for a signal sprint, it's going to take a long time. And you're also going to send low health signals to the algorithm because you're not consistently posting. Now, if you're engaging, that's fine. But we're talking about the quality over quantity misconception, right? You also have less opportunity for touch points and you'll feel less organic, right? Because when you're spending so much time and you're crafting these incredibly complex and intricate pieces of content, it's going to come off as very advertisery, very controlled, unless you're taking even more time to make it great, which is totally possible. I think both of these are misconceptions, because really what you want to find is the quality equals quantity balance, right? So don't prioritize one or the other. Find the balance between them. And this is going to take up a lot of different factors, right? Like my content, for example. Would my content be higher quality if I took the time to write a full script for everything that I did so that I say everything in exactly the right way? Would it be cooler if I had motion graphics and illustrations and animations to go along with what I was saying? Yeah. Yeah, it would. Would it be higher quality if I rented out a space and had all this lighting and colors and all of that? Yeah, it would. That would be much higher quality. But can I produce that on a consistent enough basis to keep up with the goals? That answer is no. Not currently. Now, when we expand the team, maybe these will look like the bedroom videos that they truly are compared to what we do, but I don't know. And that's really what you want to say is like, okay, if we are shooting for this level of consistency and this level of quality, where do they meet in the middle? And these are my recommendations. Here's another prescription for you. Paging Dr. Mike. If you're committed to the pieces platforms, so we talked about the pillars and pieces model. If you don't remember that, go check out the content strategy step-by-step video on YouTube or any of the TikToks. Find me on TikTok, Mike.Heffron. That's a dot, Mike.Heffron. If you're committed to the pillars and pieces, this is how I recommend you do it. So your pillar platforms, recommend shooting for twice a week. If you want to start with once a week, cool. Wouldn't go any less than once a week. But ideally, a small team can keep up with 2 per week. And then as far as your pieces platforms, this is where things get a little different based upon the circumstances. So I'll run down my sort of general guidelines list. If you're targeting meta platforms, this is Facebook, Instagram, to a lesser extent WhatsApp, depending on if you're in some big groups or anything, or LinkedIn. So this quantity quality balance is for Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, mainly. You want to shoot for 15 posts per month. 15 posts per month, every other day. Why not every day? Can't you do every day? Shouldn't you do 2 times a day? Like I said, quality, quantity, balance. Unless you are ready to really spend the resources on making that twice a day happen at a high enough quality to actually work, then I recommend starting with this and then feel free to hit the gas, okay? 15 times a month. 8 of these posts should be produced videos. And they can be in any aspect ratio you choose. Except for Instagram, that should be vertical. Doesn't have to be, but it should be. You want to do 4 photos, 4 high quality photos and or graphics, and you want to do 3 spontaneous posts. These can be for holidays. These can be based off of short-term trends, or these could be experimental posts, sort of testing different algorithmic intent signals based upon this type of content. You can do that for 3 pieces a month. If we're talking TikTok as your pieces platform, 15 times a month, once again, 12 a month in that consistent strategy. So the strategy that you already built when you created your step-by-step model that we talked about, remember? 12 of them should be following those guidelines. 3 should be spontaneous trending testing. That way you can always be evolving, always be innovating. And you can also, as we talked about content nurturing, on TikTok, you have the ability to create content based upon the comments on an existing piece of content. So one piece of content can actually spiral out into, innumerable amounts of additional content without you needing to produce more fully original content, if that makes sense. Now, those are the platforms that I recommend. There are plenty of others. Pinterest, I don't know a ton about Pinterest, but the campaigns that I've helped on there, I say every single day, and that's not super hard considering you can repurpose a lot of content and it's mainly still images or graphics. So you could take one photo and edit it in multiple ways, and now you have additional content. Or even just a different angle of the same shot can be reused for Pinterest. Twitter, I never recommend using as a main platform, right? But if you choose to make Twitter a priority for you, then I would mainly repurpose content that you already have on another platform and spend most of your time engaging other people. That's how you're going to do it. Same with Reddit. I wouldn't spend a lot of time on OG posting, depending on your goals, right? But spend a lot of time engaging. So I would put like 80% of my resources and time into engaging. And something like YouTube is going to be a big balance, because you could do 1 post a day on YouTube, especially if you want to do the shorts. If you want to do YouTube shorts really hardcore, but every other day could also be a thing. I would say, depending on your audience and the type of production quality that they expect, I would say twice a week, once or twice a week, right? Now, for something like live streams, if you're a Twitch streamer, Instagram Live, Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, if you're trying to leverage these unique channel functions, once again, production balance for the audience. Like, you want to make sure it's high enough quality, but also consistent. And that can be tough with a live stream. It really can. They're very tricky beasts. If you're going for really aggressive growth, like if you want to be a Twitch influencer, like a Twitch streamer or something, then you're going to want like 5 streams a week for 4 hours minimum. It's a tough market, right? But if you're really just leveraging it as another channel addition to kind of help nurture your content, if it's more of a nurturing function, then you could get away with once a week to once a month for like an hour or something like that, or as long as it takes to get your message across. It might be something you promote. It might be something spontaneous. It really depends on your goals with that. But that's really more of a quantity-quality balance as far as what your audience expects. And you can set those expectations, but that's part of your brand personality. So that's your prescription. You can go ahead and fill that yourself with your phone. So get to it. We got a couple more misconceptions here. Here's a misconception that I love, is the omni-channel domination misconception, that you have to be growing and killing it on all platforms simultaneously. And I talked about this in another episode, so I'm going to keep this brief. You can go back and listen to that. This is a dumb idea unless you have tons of time and resources and commitment to this, because it's extremely complex. And you're going to need separate teams and experts in different channels that are creating content at scale for those channels, not just repurposing. I mean, you can get away with repurposing a lot, but you're still going to need nurturers, and there's obvious benefits to winning on all channels. Let's not be unclear about that. This is called Be Bold and Everywhere, because I believe the idea and the ideal is to be dominating an omnichannel experience at scale. But if you are already on the fence about content marketing, then that's a lot. You're diving way into the deep. You're diving into the deep ocean, and it's shark infested. So choose your channels to own. Just choose one. Choose two. Learn them, own them, get success there. Then decide when and where you want to expand. Otherwise, you're chasing your tail. You're jumping from platform to platform. You're telling your marketing team to focus on these short-term things, and you're never taking the time to build an audience on any one. So don't do it. Own a channel, make it your home, put the stakes in the ground, stay there. Last conception, my industry, thing, art, whatever it is, this is something, it's a quote. My blank is too boring for content. Or I can't make content consistently. I just can't. These are these are misconceptions here. So to the first one, the answer is so simple that it's almost condescending. Because if you think that your thing is too boring to make content for, I have to ask if you even like the thing. Do you like your industry? Do you like your product? Do you like your art? If the answer is no, then you have some bigger life questions you need to ask yourself. But if the answer is yes, then okay, you like it. Do you feel like anyone in the world would also like your product, service, art, industry thing? If the answer is no, then once again, you need to go back to the drawing room, because if you don't believe in what you're doing, you shouldn't be promoting it. Now, if you say, yeah, I think people would really benefit from my product, service, art, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you like it. You think people would benefit from it. Where are the people? Online. Social media. Case closed, right? All right. Now, if you still feel like, I love my industry, but it's so boring, blah, 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 then leverage something else and bring it into your thing. Okay? Make it like you could do comedy skits based around your service. I see that plays so well. Maybe you're not funny. Okay, that's fine. Maybe you're not a video person. You don't have to make video content, by the way. I don't know if you've seen it, if you're on TikTok, Instagram Reels or anything, but you can very easily gain a following off videos that are just a thing. It can be a thing, it can be a face. Nothing is being said, nothing's being done, and there's just a block of text on the screen. Pretty easy, pretty unintimidating, right? Just got to do it. Oh, well, I can't read, I can't write, I don't have a smartphone. How do I make the content? I can't help you with that. This doctor has limitations, all right? Now, do you have a smartphone? Do you have the internet? All right, you can make the content, okay? If you're still on the fence, like maybe there's just something holding you back and just makes you so anxious, then don't lean into creating. Just lean into the engaging. Just spend time on the platform. Just focus on commenting, leaving your mark, making your presence known, just via the social side and not the media side. Then maybe you'll be ready. Maybe you'll find that comfort, okay? But if you don't feel it and you've tried it and it's just such a nerve-wracking, horrifying experience for you, then lean into the engaging until you're ready to create. The only option is to make stuff or do stuff. The only non-option is to do nothing. You can't not do anything. Not in 2022, and definitely not in 2025. So are you going to be in business in 2025? Are you going to be around in 2025? Well, not if World War III. Seriously, though. If you plan on being in business or being an artist or doing whatever you do in 2030, then figure this out now. Figure this content thing out now. You don't want to be experimenting with making content in 2030. Just saying. I challenge you to not do nothing. Do something. And if you have questions, of course, I'm always here. I'm here to answer. This is what I do. All right? And I would love to answer more of your questions in an additional episode. We got a lot more episodes coming up. I'm going to try to increase the frequency of these going out. And I'll see you over on the Pieces platforms, TikTok, Instagram, in the stories, wherever you find me on Snapchat. We're out here. We're being bold, and we're everywhere. I'm Mike Heffron. Thank you all so much. I'll see you.